The word that I would use to describe the crop tool inside Photoshop CS6 and the changes that they've made to the crop tool inside Photoshop CS6 is pleasing or pleasant. I'm really, really excited about what they've done to the crop tool. It's so easy to use. It's a pleasure to use it. And it's really going to increase my productivity. And I think you will be equally as pleased. So let's check it out. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to revert my file because we just cropped them, didn't we? So once again, I'm going to hit F12 on my keyboard to revert this guy back. Or again, you can choose File and then down to Revert. That's fine as well. And then what I'm going to do over inside the toolbox is I'm going to grab the crop tool. Now, you can tap the C key on your keyboard as well if you wish. Now, right off the bat, if you are upgrading from a previous version of Photoshop, you'll notice changes. You'll notice that we now get these different grab handles around all four corners and all four sides of the image, right? Now, if you're brand new to all this, well, don't worry about it. It's a little bit different from previous versions. What's neat about this is I can grab these handles and I can start dragging in on them. And as I'm dragging on them, I get sort of this interactive feel from Photoshop. In other words, it's going to move the image and scale things up as I'm dragging on these resize handles. And also, of course, we get this grid called the rule of thirds inside the crop frame. And anything that appears outside of the crop frame is dimmed so that I can focus on what I'm actually doing inside the crop frame itself. Okay? So not only can I adjust things in terms of, adjusting the horizontal crop or perhaps the vertical crop, things like this, but I can also bring my cursor outside of the crop frame, and the cursor that I get is a curved double-headed arrow. So now what I can do is click and drag to actually rotate the image, something like this, right? Now, what I'm going to do is, in a very general way, is I'm going to try and line up the left edge of my image with the left edge of my crop frame. Maybe something like, well, it's a little bit tricky to get here because I'm zoomed so far out. Maybe something about like that. I think I'm off a little bit, but pretty close there. When I'm happy with this, I would either double click inside the crop frame or simply hit Enter on my keyboard. And of course, inside Photoshop CS6, we have some visual enhancements that have been made for us as we are cropping. That's awesome, that's wonderful, but there's so much more to show you with the crop tool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit F12 on one more time to revert back. Notice I'm still on the crop tool and I still have the crop handles all the way around my image, all the way around the outside edge of the canvas. And what I'm going to do now is I want to start exploring some of the options that we have available to us along the top of our screen inside the options bar. What I could do if I wanted to is I could use this drop-down menu right at the top left corner of the interface, drop this guy down, and rather than using unconstrained, what I could do is I could say, all right, what I'm really after is a 4x5 or an 8x10. I'm going to choose that. And what happens is the crop frame automatically adjusts itself to give me that 4" by 5" crop frame, right? Which is wonderful for photography, of course. Drop this guy down, and perhaps it's really a 5x7 that I'm after. There, the crop frame adjusts itself once again, right? There's all sorts of different options that you can choose here. I definitely encourage you to explore through them. And of course, you can create your own as well, which I really like. So there you go. So you can definitely explore through these guys. I'm going to go back to unconstrained, though, just for a moment. Because the other thing that I want to show you is inside this crop frame, as we already know, we get this grid line appearing, or this rule of thirds happening here. And that's all happening from the second drop-down menu, the drop-down menu that appears in the center area of the options menu. And notice we have rule of thirds, or I could say give me a grid, something like that. Or I could say give me diagonal, something like this. Or, there's a smattering of others. The golden ratio, if you know about the golden ratio. Now, what's neat here is I can tap the O key on my keyboard to cycle through these different view options, right? I'm going to go all the way back to the rule of thirds myself. Or if you want, if you find this distracting, what you could do is you could say never show the overlay. Just give me a regular crop. I don't want to mess around with, you know, grids or overlays or anything like that. Or what you could do is you could auto show the overlay. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to go back to the default, the always show overlay. And it's entirely up to you how you want to use this overlay option. Again, whether it's the rule of thirds or whether it's the golden ratio or any of the others that you want in there.